In the novel, I transmigrated into the body of a female supporting character with a glorious family background and outstanding beauty. Her biggest drawback was her poor academic performance. She was at the bottom of the class but was infatuated with the top student, the male lead. How ridiculous! Before I transmigrated, I scored 710 on the college entrance exam and was the top scorer in my province for the A block. How could something this good happen? The moment I took over, the supporting character was being criticized by the math teacher. A 10 on the math test. I could do better with my eyes closed. What good is being rich? Your brain is one of a kind, and you have the nerve to chase after Ha and Heen. Ha and Heen would have to be blind to notice you. Spit flew onto my face. This supporting character must have been under too much pressure. Her nerves were unstable, which is why I had the chance to take over. Looking at the series of numbers and formulas on the blackboard, memories of the college entrance exam flooded my mind. Scold me for anything, but don't you dare touch my ick. This is my forte. The first question is C. The second answer is 436. The third one is an error and can't be solved, I said. The math teacher stared at me, stunned. After a moment, he slowly turned to Ha and Heen. Ha and Heen, what do you think of the YY's solution? Ha and Heen stood up, fiddled with a pen for a moment, then looked up at the teacher and said, "She's right. The third question is missing a condition, so it's unsolvable." The teacher's eyes widened, and he waved his hand at me to hum, "Very good, you can sit down. Try to learn more from Ha and Heen in the future." Ha and Heen still had to calculate. I saw the mistake immediately. Who should be learning from whom? But I couldn't be bothered to argue with the teacher because I realized my seat was right in front of Ha and Heen's. The original owner must have used her rich father to get this seat. Whatever, I didn't care much and sat down. But strangely, I kept feeling someone's gaze on me from behind. After class, a group of female students surrounded Ha and Heen's desk to ask questions. I had read this novel, so I wasn't surprised by this scene. In the original story, both the female lead, Tran Mok, and the female supporting character, Twai, were tutored by Ha and Heen. Tran Mok, who had average grades and a normal family background, was able to get into the top 20 of the class and even receive a scholarship thanks to Ha and Heen's help. As for Twai, she was actually a good student. Asking Ha and Heen to tutor her was just an excuse to get close to the male lead. Even though Ha and Heen explained things patiently, she was too busy admiring his looks to absorb anything, and her grades even dropped. Ha and Heen was so angry, he stopped talking to her. While reading the story, I didn't particularly like Ha and Heen. He was portrayed as a noble and cold top student, seemingly indifferent to everyone, including the female lead, Tran Mok. I used to be a great student, and I didn't turn out so bad, yet no guys pursued me. What a double standard. The only thing we had in common was that after every class, we were surrounded by countless classmates asking for help. Sometimes my solutions were even simpler than the teachers, so more people came to me than to them. Now, hearing phrases like, "How do you do this problem? Can you help me with this?" From behind me, I turned around by reflex. Twai, do you want to ask something? Didn't Ha and Heen say he wouldn't teach you anymore? A kid? Looking female student sneered at me. Hey, I haven't even said anything yet. Ha and Heen also raised an eyebrow, staring at me as if waiting for me to ask for his help. I was about to speak when suddenly, a short-haired girl next to me jumped out and angrily scolded the other girl. "What are you talking about? Has Ha and Heen said anything? Who gave you the right to interfere?" I remembered. Twai had two best friends, one named Fuang Man and the other Chuang Bu. All three had terrible grades and spent their days playing games, shopping, and spending money on idols. Seeing Twai being ridiculed, Fuang Man stood up for her friend. I gently patted Fuang Man's shoulder, signaling her to calm down. "Teach me Yeah, I would have to wait a lifetime to find someone to teach me how to solve college entrance exam problems. I picked up the green tea girls test paper and glanced at it. The multiple choice answers are C, D, A, C, B. You got it wrong because you miscopied the numbers while calculating. Don't bother Ha and He with such stupid questions next time. With that, I threw the test back at her. Next. One man stared wide-eyed, and finally, only Tranmok was left. She was tutored by Ha and Heen, and the questions she got wrong were relatively difficult, at least not due to calculation errors or misreading the problem. I quite liked the female lead. I put my arm around Tranmok's shoulder and said seriously, study with me. If you don't understand anything in the future, just ask me. Forget the top 20. I can help you get into the top 10. To why, what are you up to now? Ha-en-heen finally spoke. He remained calm, his tone as indifferent as ever, but his eyes revealed surprise. He probably couldn't believe that a bottom class student like me had suddenly become so smart. HNPH, underestimate me, how about this? Ha-en-heen, I said with a mischievous smile. Let's make a bet on who does better on the midterms. If you get a higher score, it'll stop bothering you. If I get a higher score, let me think. How about making Ha-en-heen call me Dad? You have to be my boyfriend, Fuan Man suddenly shouted before I could finish. Hey, I glared at her. Are you my best friend or my enemy? Fuan Man stuck out her tongue at me, as if to say, you're not going to win this anyway, so just stream on. With my luck, I need to be possessed by the spirits of Lubad or Gauss to win. As if getting a high score is that easy. Damn it, I wanted to knock her on the head. Damn it twice. Ha-en-heen agreed. His expression seemed to say, great, I'm finally getting rid of this annoying person. I, who clearly just wanted to be called Dad, reluctantly accepted this deal. Fine, I'll just dump you after I win. As soon as I stepped out of the classroom, I saw the maid waiting at the door. She held my school bag and asked respectfully, Miss, the limited edition Ferrari is still under maintenance. Well, take the extended version of the rules. Roy's home today. Is that all right with you? Of course, of course. My heart leaped with joy. After all, I had never had the chance to see such luxurious things. Let alone a Ferrari, even a car with wheels would do. Why pretend anymore? A different supercar to pick me up every day. After pursuing Ha-en-heen for so long, he didn't even spare her a glance. The whispers behind me were so loud. Just by listening, I could tell it was Ha-en-heen's fan club A, B, and C. I ignored them and walked straight to the luxury car parked at the school gate. The driver, wearing black gloves, stood by the car door and said, Miss YY, welcome back from school, then helped me open the door. Just then, the female lead and her best friend walked by. Her best friend probably couldn't contain her irritation at seeing me being pampered so much and made a sarcastic comment. Oh my, someone even has to carry her school bag for her. Rich people are really different. HMPH, I've never been one to let others criticize me. I was about to retort when the maid next to me spoke up first. No, Mr. Da pays me $50,000 a month. I'm more than happy to do small things like carrying her school bag. My jaw dropped. Tranmok and her best friend were also stunned. My dad is amazing. He's single. Handedly raised the average salary of the domestic service industry. I cleared my throat twice and quietly looked at the maid's name tag. Alice? Well done, Alice. I patted her shoulder. I like you a lot. Keep it up, and I'll ask my dad to give you a raise. I knew the YY was rich, but I didn't expect her to be this rich. Her house in the suburbs was an incredibly magnificent villa with a garden, a swimming pool, and a large forest behind it, just like the noble castles in European and American movies. More importantly, her parents loved each other and the family was harmonious, without any of the drama like a fake daughter. I couldn't help but sigh. Why did DIY have to be so persistent in pursuing the male lead? If she wanted to look at handsome guys, she could use her money to chase after idols. Aren't idols handsome too? A noble and elegant woman walked out leisurely. As soon as she saw me, she gave me a warm smile. Why, you're back. Your father is in the study. This must be my mom. I immediately ran into her arms and exclaimed, Mom. My mom paused for a moment, then hugged me tightly. What's wrong with you today? It's been a long time since you've hugged me, feeling a bit awkward. I replied, I just missed you. I went back to my room and jumped and rolled around on the huge bed. Before I could even get comfortable, the door burst open and a middle-aged man with black-rimmed glasses walked in. I thought for a moment and then cautiously called out, Dad. Dad nodded, sat down on the edge of the bed, and asked solemnly, Why? Did something happen to upset you today? I was a little confused. Your mother said you seemed unhappy as soon as you got home. Were your exam results not good? Don't worry, if you can't study in this country, I'll send you abroad to get a degree. Anyway, you won't need to look for a job in the future. I can support you for the rest of your life. That wouldn't do. Dad, I feel like I'm studying much better than before. My dad looked at me with a skeptical gaze. Is it because of that boy named Hien in your class? I really don't understand you. Why? There are plenty of fish in the sea. Why do you have to be in love with one that doesn't belong to you? There are many handsome boys out there now. You should pay more attention. After saying that, my dad handed me a stack of photos. Curious, I looked down and saw that they were all pictures of boys my age, all quite handsome. My dad sat next to me and enthusiastically introduced them. This one is named So. So, he's the son of So. And he goes to the school. To help me get over my unrequited love for Hot and Heen, my dad must have put in a lot of effort. Moved, I picked out the photo of the most handsome guy and gave it to my dad. Dan, who is this? Isn't this the idol who was just launched by the talent agency? I know his dad. Do you like him? Let me get his phone number for you. I was just asking for fun, but my dad immediately took it seriously and noted it down in the notes app on his phone. Finally, the man stood up, rubbed his pot belly, and said with a look of satisfaction, Why, you're finally over that kid Hot and Heen. From now on, I'll increase your allowance by 200,000 yuan a month as a reward. 200,000 yuan? Oh, I can't believe it. I'm rich. Thanks to Face ID, I successfully logged into YY's bank account on her phone. Currently, she has 300,000 yuan a month, plus the 200,000 yuan that was just promised. In other words, I don't have to do anything. I'll be a real rich young lady with a monthly income of 500,000 yuan. Oh, life is so beautiful. How can it be this good? I leaned back and fell onto the luxurious bed. Before my eyes, countless high-end luxury goods seemed to be flashing, beckoning me, Miss Bias. I slapped myself on the cheek twice, trying to keep my head clear, telling myself, spending money is of course enjoyable, but using money to make more money is even more interesting. The phone rang, and I heard Fuang Man's voice from the other end, very loud. Hey DIY, where are you? Listen to this. My mom just hired a tutor from the capital for me. My mom said he's a former member of the National College Entrance Exam Setting Committee. Come study with me. If it weren't for your stupid bet with Hot and Heen, I wouldn't even bother studying. Actually, my most proud achievement was solving the last math problem in the college entrance exam that year. That made me a legend in high school. After the exam, the math teacher even called me aside and asked me to come back to the school often to help the younger students with problem solving when I went to college. I laughed. Man, don't believe those old folks. They've been away from the battlefield for a long time. How would they know the current trends in exam setting? Don't talk nonsense. My mom said it cost a lot of money to hire this tutor. Young man's voice was almost a shout. A sudden idea flashed through my mind. I paused for a moment and asked, how much did it cost? The next morning, Alice knocked on my door and gently reminded me, Miss, breakfast is ready. After breakfast, we'll go to school. I opened the door and handed her my school bag. Okay, thank you. You've worked hard. Miss, you're not sleeping in today? Alice looked at me with surprise. I've decided to change. From now on, I'll study hard. In the dining room, my parents were sitting at the dining table. The table was filled with exquisite and delicious food. I swallowed my saliva and sat down obediently. I heard the Fuang family hired a very famous tutor for their daughter. My mother suddenly said to my father. Thanks to reading the novel, I knew that although my mother didn't work, she was very famous in high society. She knew which famous lady bought which limited edition bag, which CEO was having an affair with how many young mistresses. She knew everything. Pyong Man's mother had just hired a tutor yesterday, and my mother had already received the news today. My father looked up from behind the newspaper. If YY falls behind, we have to hire a tutor for her too. I was spreading salted egg yolk sauce on my sandwich when I heard them mention me, and my ears perked up. Of course, Pyong Man's level is similar to YY's. We can't let YY fall behind just because the Pyong family hired a tutor. You should also see if there are any famous tutors to invite them to tutor her, preferably someone who can solve the problems for her. Something like that. As expected, she's my real mother. She also knows that I can only take shortcuts by having someone else solve the problems for me. My father nodded and wrote it down in his phone's notes app. When I was on the phone with Pyong Man, she reminded me of something. These tutors are not cheap at all. What if I recruit all these expensive teachers into my company? They'll be making money. A bright future in the education industry was opening up before me. I pretended to ask casually, Dad, how many companies do you have? My father started counting on his fingers. 1, 2, 3, probably a dozen or so. What? I smiled slowly. Dad, can you help me set up a company? For someone like me who wants to work in the education industry, the tutoring industry is a perfect fit. This thought was like a seed just planted in my mind. It immediately grew vigorously, sprouted, and blossomed, and nothing could stop it. The result of these thoughts was that I got out of the back of the Rolls Royce and walked to the school building with a silly smile on my face, as if I would soon be rich. But in the eyes of some of Ha En-heen's fans, my expression was clearly a provocation to Ha En-heen. In a prestigious school like this, rumors always spread quickly. Yesterday I made a bet with Ha En-heen, and today almost the whole school knows about it. Some people even came to our classroom door to watch. When I arrived at the classroom door, I happened to meet Pyong Man, who was shouting very loudly. Move it! Don't stand here blocking the way and making others late for class. When did Pyong Man become so enlightened? I took her hand and pushed through the crowd to get into the classroom, saying, Man, just ignore them. Some people are born without eyes and have never seen the world. If they want to look, let them look. We're good people. Ha En-heen was sitting in his seat, looking calm. His textbook was open, and he was holding a pen in his right hand, seemingly solving a math problem. I suddenly noticed that his fingers were very beautiful. Ha En-heen probably noticed me looking at him, and he looked up and said lightly, Classmate to YY, the midterm exam is in a month. If you want to surpass me, you have to work hard this month. I frowned. A declaration of war. He fell silent after speaking and just glanced at the desk behind me. I followed his gaze and turned back to see the Chinese language test on my desk. The first class was Chinese with our homeroom teacher. This was last week's test. Today, the class Chinese representative would be going over the test and handing it back to me. I sighed. 45 points. For every major question, I wrote an extra 2 words plus some sympathy points from the teacher. It's not surprising I got this score. No wonder Ha and Heen said such things. If it were me, I would have definitely turned on the sarcasm function. The bell for class interrupted my thoughts. The Chinese teacher was a woman in her 50s who looked very experienced. As soon as she entered the classroom, she threw her textbook and teaching materials on the teacher's desk and said loudly, "Dear students, the test papers have been distributed to you. This test was not difficult, but you have disappointed me greatly. Some of you did not perform as well as usual, and someone even got only 45 points." A few people looked at me. I hid behind my Chinese textbook. The homeroom teacher paused at the right moment, and everyone looked at me with the eyes of a judge. Then she continued, "It's really bad. You all have to study properly. Are you Sima Guam to be tortured like this?" Luzon has many famous quotes, but you can't just make them up as you please. Surprised, I opened the Chinese test paper. In the supporting characters paper, there was indeed a sentence. Luzon once said, "As long as you study hard, the people behind you will look at you more." If that's the case, Ha and Heen looking down on her from behind is justified. I know some of you take Ha and Heen as a role model, and even secretly challenge him to bets. Competition is a good thing, but considering your current attitude towards learning, the teacher doesn't think any student in this class can surpass Ha and Heen in terms of scores. If you really care about your studies more than other things, then you should focus on reviewing for next week's monthly tests first. After a long, winded speech, the homeroom teacher finally finished her comments and started going over the test. But I noticed another problem. I nudged my deskmate's arm. She was a quiet person. I asked, "Is there a monthly test next week?" "Yes, once a month, ranked for the whole grade." "You forgot again?" After school, I went to the back of the classroom to find Fuan Man and then ran to the classroom next door to get Chuan Vu. The three of us went to the rooftop cafe at the school. As soon as we sat down, I immediately declared, "This monthly test, I'm going to teach Ha and Heen a lesson." Fuan Man and Chuan Vu looked at each other and said in unison, Why? What do you mean?" "The monthly test, do you guys remember?" I calmly took a sip of my cappuccino. How could we not remember? Chuan Vu, who always looks sleepy, yawned lazily. "Last time you were ranked 1,253rd, Man was 1,106. I did a bit better, 996th, my first time in the top 1,000. My dad even threw a party to celebrate. So my score is considered average. Of course. There are a total of 1,260 students in the whole grade, minus the 3 who had stomach aches. You still have room to fall back this time, don't worry." Chuan Vu patted my shoulder. I suddenly realized she was a bit sarcastic. No, I'm not talking about last month's test, but the next monthly test. I pushed Chuan Vu's hand away and looked at them seriously. I want Ha and Heen to fall from his number 1 position in the grade, even out of the top 10. Fuan Man and Chuan Vu's eyes widened. After a moment of silence, Fuan Man exclaimed, Why? Don't tell me you're planning to do something illegal. My family is in media, and Tu Vu's family is in real estate. These are all respectable professions. We can't do anything illegal." In a flash, Fuan Man and Chuan Vu had already created a scenario in their heads where I, driven by love and hate, decided to destroy the male god I couldn't have. No. I began to patiently explain to them. I'm planning to organize a review session before the monthly test, mainly to review the key concepts and predict the exam questions. I hope you two can help me find some more students to attend. At first, the fee can be cheap or even free. After everyone sees how effective it is, it'll raise the price. My two best friends looked at me like I was an idiot. Young man asked, "Who's teaching?" "My family just hired a tutor." Vu was a little smarter than her. Understanding my meaning, she snorted coldly. Why, have you gone crazy from being rejected by Ha and Heen too many times?" "Who come to listen to a poem?" Rank student lecture. I bit my nails and thought. It's true that with the YY's previous terrible test results, trying to organize this kind of class would be a joke. But because it's so ridiculous and unbelievable, it's sure to create a new wave of discussion in the school. Rumors always have this kind of viral effect. At that time, there will definitely be no shortage of students who come to watch the fun. As long as they come, I'll have a way to keep them. Hey, don't worry so much first. You two just need to think of a way to help me spread the word. Although the YY and her two best friends were not good students, they had a very good social circle. In addition, the news that the YY would be holding a review class before the monthly test to try to surpass Ha and Heen was really too attractive. As soon as the news was released, people immediately asked if it was true. I assigned the task of building a reputation and creating a list of participants to Fuon Man, and the task of determining the time and finding a location for the class to Chuangvu. After all, with one family in media and the other in real estate, these things were a piece of cake for them, and it would also be good experience for them to participate in their family businesses later. The special review class before the monthly test didn't need to be too long. 3 days before the monthly test, Chuangvu, under the pretext of a club activity, applied for permission to use a classroom in the evening from the academic affairs office. After school, I took my school bag and went to the borrowed classroom. The classroom was already half full, with about 50 to 60 people, more than I expected. Everyone looked at me with an expression of waiting for a good show. I took the list from Fuon Man, glanced at it, and asked, "What's the level of the students who came today?" Fuon Monk pointed with a pen. A total of 55 people registered, 50 of whom are ranked below 1,000, and 4 are in the 900s. What about the last one? This student had a stomachache during the last monthly test. Don't worry, their score isn't much higher than yours. That's right. The good students are at home reviewing right now and wouldn't come to participate in this kind of joke of an activity. I scratched my head. The pressure was a bit high. To find one person among these students who, after 3 days of training, could score higher than Ha and Heen, the probability was too low. The students in the class probably saw my predicament and thought I was speechless. They had originally come with a playful attitude, but now they started whispering. "Hey, didn't YY say she wanted to tutor us? Why isn't she saying anything? Don't turn us into bottom rank students like you." I threw my school bag on the table and asked loudly, "All right, if you want to learn, I hope everyone will be serious. How many days are left until the monthly test?" 3 days, someone answered. What about the midterms? This time they had to count on their fingers. 32 days. And there are 91 days until the final exams, and 256 days until the college entrance exam. For some people, this period may seem very long, but for us, it's actually very short. The students in the class frowned at me, probably not understanding what on earth to YY was talking about. I continued to speak loudly. I know that most of your families are very wealthy, and even if you don't get into a good university, you still have a path. But do you really want to rely on your parents for the rest of your lives? Think about it. Do you want to be at the bottom of the class forever? This time no one spoke, probably suppressed by my aura. While they were still dazed, I quickly took the textbook out of my school bag and commanded, "Open to page 62 of the textbook. Look at the formula and the first term of the arithmetic progression. Focus on doing exercise number 4 at the end of the chapter. Then it'll give you 2 variations, and you have to master each type of variation." I can't guarantee the accuracy of the above passage, as I only used a translation tool. Someone raised their hand and asked, "Can't we just copy someone else's work?" "There are too many formulas, I can't remember them all." I threw a book at his head. "Can you copy in the college entrance exam?" "First, mark the important points I mentioned with a highlighter. Then he'll teach you a simple way to solve it." Previously, I only occasionally answered a few questions from friends during breaks. This was the first time I had put so much effort into organizing a review session before an exam. When I got home, I collapsed on the bed. My mom put a glass of milk on the bedside table and patted my shoulder. Why did you come home so late today?" "Class," I answered wearily. "Is it that stressful?" "The teachers are making you study extra after school." "Your daughter is helping others review," I thought to myself. But I didn't explain further. I sat up, drank 2 sips of milk, and then lay back down. The next day when I got to class, I saw Hot and Heen as soon as I walked in. I realized he always came earlier than me. It wasn't time for class yet. 4 or 5 students had already gathered around Hot and Heen, each holding notebooks and reference books. Tranmok was also there, explaining a difficult physics problem to him. I stood by and observed for a few moments. It was no surprise that Hot and Heen was at the top. His foundation of knowledge was very solid, and his problem-solving methods were very systematic. Whether the problem was difficult or easy, as long as you followed his steps and persevered a little, you would definitely find the correct answer. But most students nowadays want to take shortcuts and find simpler ways, but those methods are not as effective as Ha and Heen's. I get it now. Tranmok, after listening to Ha and Heen's explanation, happily expressed her gratitude. She stood up and met my gaze. "Oh, why? I heard you held a review session at school yesterday, right?" Hearing Tranmok's words, Ha and Heen also turned his inquisitive gaze towards me. It was so awkward to face the male and female leads. I nodded slightly and then turned to sit down. "Why are you suddenly doing things like that?" Tranmok hugged her books. Her voice was quite gentle, seemingly just curious, without any ill intentions. "I just want to progress together with everyone," I replied, which was partly true. But when I said that, the people around Ha and Heen burst out laughing. Ha and Heen had one bad point, which was that he didn't like students who were slow to learn, who couldn't understand no matter how much he explained. Usually, when such students came to ask him questions, he would explain it over and over again, but if they still didn't understand, he would just ignore them. Y was one of them. Therefore, the people who were still queuing up to have him explain things to them were, it could be said, not excellent students, but they were all students with average or above academic ability, often considered by teachers as well. Behaved students who didn't cause trouble. The group of classmates looked at me with mocking eyes. Although not as direct as the people yesterday, the ridicule in their eyes was much clearer than theirs. I couldn't hold back and pointed at them, saying, "What are you laughing at? You think you're so smart? Maybe you think that just because you're number 1 in the grade today, the students who are worse than you can't surpass you? I'm telling you, with your kind of study habits, it's only a matter of time before someone surpasses you." Being criticized so directly by me, no one dared to say a word. The atmosphere suddenly became extremely awkward. Ha and Heen handed the pile of papers to the group of people and even defended me to why is right. "I'm not explaining anymore. You guys can review it yourselves." I was stunned and slowly turned back to start rummaging through the books in my bag. What the hell is going on? Hot and Heen is taking my side. It feels so strange. I had previously collected the exam papers of all subjects from the school for past exams, so I was familiar with the question setting style of the teachers and had selected some important questions. In the final review session, I compiled a few questions on a first sheet, printed it out, and distributed it to everyone. After 3 days, the students who came to class had been intimidated by my words and were no longer noisy. They sat quietly and did the exercises. In my opinion, although it was difficult for weak students to break into the top 10 or top 100 immediately, it was entirely possible for their total score to increase by a few percentage points. Of course, the most important thing was that I had rarely studied so hard 3 days before an exam. This time, I would definitely leave Ha and Heen far behind. On the day of the monthly test, I felt that I was in good shape. I didn't oversleep, didn't have a stomachache, and didn't realize I had forgotten my twab pencil only after getting to the exam room. Although I had had a stomachache during the literature exam before and had to sit in the bathroom for half an hour, I still came in first in the whole school when the results came out. However, this was the first school wide-ranking test as to why it was better to be careful. The first subject was math. When I received the paper, I quickly skimmed it from beginning to end. Most of the difficult questions were on topics I had predicted. There was even one question that was similar to the practice test I had done in the review class, only the numbers were different. I was overjoyed and covered my mouth to laugh silently for 2 minutes. As a result, the proctor came over, stared at me, and asked, "What's so funny? Is the test interesting?" The math test lasted 2 hours, and I finished it in less than an hour. When I was writing the last question, I already knew the answer. However, the steps had to be complete because the process was also graded. While I was concentrating on writing, the proctor suddenly knocked lightly on my desk. "To Y from class 12. For right?" While writing, I replied, "Yes, what's the matter?" "Your mother was in a car accident. Your father said you don't need to take the test anymore, go to the hospital right away." My mother was in an accident. I handed my test paper to the proctor and said loudly, "Then I'll submit my paper early." Then I rushed out of the exam room. The driver was already waiting at the school gate. Since it wasn't time for school to be over, the lone rolls Royce parked in front of the school gate looked very conspicuous. As soon as I got in the car, it drove straight to the hospital. My father must have made arrangements in advance because a nurse was waiting at the door. As soon as she saw me, the nurse asked, "Are you Mrs. Toss' daughter?" I nodded. "Yes, that's right." "Okay, follow me. The single VIP room is on the 5th floor with security." "Is my mother seriously injured?" I couldn't be patient anymore and asked as I walked. "It's okay. The doctor has already seen her. The family doesn't need to worry too much," the nurse said, a strange smile suddenly appearing on her lips. Her smile inadvertently reminded me of the tragic scenes in TV dramas when the patient's relatives hear the doctor announce a serious illness. Everyone has their own destiny. The family shouldn't be too sad. "Doctor, we will do our best. The family should remain calm." "It can't be." I trembled. My mother was clearly healthy this morning. She even specially prepared a yuxiao and 2 eggs for me, wishing me a perfect score. How did it turn out like this? I anxiously followed the nurse and finally reached the 5th floor. As soon as I opened the door, I was surprised by how large the hospital room was. This room had to be 60 square meters, with a kitchen, a bathroom, and even a gym. Then I saw my mother, Mrs. Stu. At first, I closed my eyes tightly, not daring to open them for fear of seeing a terrible image, such as a person covered in bandages with a scarred face. It wasn't until I heard a voice calling out, "Why, come here and show me how to use this treadmill," that I peeked through the gap between my index and middle fingers. I saw my mother, her arms and legs intact, without any injuries, leisurely jogging on the treadmill. There was no bloody scene like I had imagined. Just then, my father came out of the kitchen, carrying a plate of cut watermelon. Seeing me, he quickly put the plate down and wiped his hands with an apron. Why, you're back so early?" I deliberately called your principal. "Come sit down, eat some fruit, and rest." If my mother was really sick, I couldn't blame her. But my father, I really couldn't understand him at all. I asked in a low voice, Dad, I don't think Mom has any serious problems. I have an exam today. Why didn't you wait until after my exam to call me back? My father laughed loudly. Why? I know you best. You definitely didn't want to take the exam, so I deliberately found an excuse to get you out of the exam room. Am I not smart? Hearing that, I just wanted to have a heart attack. I wanted to find a cardiologist right away to schedule an appointment. Although my mother's health was not a major concern, returning home caused me to miss the English test. Missing one subject meant I couldn't take the remaining subjects. I decided to laze around and ask the teacher for a few days off, citing the excuse of having to stay at the hospital to take care of my mother. In reality, the three of us took this opportunity to binge. Watch a series of terrible fantasy dramas that my father had funded and produced. After resting for 4 days before returning to school, my father asked a friend at the Department of Industry and Commerce to help me register and establish a company specializing in education and training. Since I was still a year away from being a legal adult, the current legal representative of the company was my father, Mr. Two. When I turned 18, it would be transferred to my name. My father didn't question my sudden decision to start a company much. It seemed that the original owner was an emotional person. The idea of starting a company was not surprising. I went back to school with my school bag. As soon as I stepped through the gate, I felt that the atmosphere today was a bit different. Many people kept pointing at me. Isn't that the person from class 12? 4? That's right. I heard her name is to YY or to Dotto or something. They got my name wrong. It annoyed me when people called me by the wrong name. I was about to turn around and tell them not to talk behind people's backs, but I guess my gaze was too sharp. As soon as I glanced at them, the crowd around me dispersed. How strange. Just before I got to class, I met Fuang Man and Chuang Vu. I called them over and asked, "What's today? I've only been gone for a few days. Why is everyone so strange to me?" Chuang Vu looked at me and burst out laughing. Today is the day the monthly test results are announced. Why? You picked the right time to come back. I thought for a moment. It was probably because of the bet with Hot and Heen that caused such a stir. Everyone wanted to see my embarrassing results on the school ranking board. In my heart, I cried out, I only took one subject. Not to mention, first place. I probably didn't even rank higher than last time. At this moment, I just wished I could go home. Why didn't I choose this time to come back to school? However, these two good friends of mine didn't notice my internal struggle at all. Each of them grabbed one of my hands and practically dragged me to the bulletin board. 2 large white sheets of paper were posted on the board, filled with names. There were also a dozen students standing around watching. From a distance, Fuan Man shouted loudly, "Let me see my score." Move it. Anyone who didn't know would think she was the best student in the school. Seeing the three of us, the other students suddenly and tacitly made way for us. Fuan Man pulled me through the path. She saw her score first. Oh my God! 351. Is this really me? Before she could finish being excited, she looked up again. Chuang Vu, 137. Oh my God, Chuang Vu, you're about to get into the top 100. Do you know that? Tamin. This is her. Shattering news, so incredible. Did you bribe the examiner? The two of them hugged each other, so happy they wanted to break into a Latin dance right there. They completely forgot who had stayed up for 3 nights before the exam to help them review. I sighed helplessly and started looking at the ranking list from the bottom. Fuang Man then remembered my presence, quickly kissed me on the cheek, and then eagerly looked for my name from the top of the list. Chuang Bu gave her friend a push. YY still owes a few subjects. Did you forget? Oh, right. Fuang Man rolled her eyes and looked down. Her eyesight was good, so she saw it with just a glance. She read out loud to YY 1253. YY, you're still stuck in the same place. Your ranking is no different from last time. It's fine. I replied perfunctorily and pulled my two friends away from there quickly. As I turned around, I suddenly bumped into someone. Who is it? Don't you know how to give way? I was in a bad mood, so I rubbed my head and grumbled in a slightly annoyed tone. Looking up, I realized it was Ha and Heen. The atmosphere became even more awkward. Ha and Heen, Fuang Man greeted him. I don't know if it was because her high score had made her too excited or if she had developed some strange illness and become different, but she completely ignored my signaling eyes and turned to look at the ranking board again. Ha and Heen, number 1. Hey, you and YY are exactly the same, still in the same position, neither falling nor rising. Man, you are really too carefree. Ha and Heen didn't pay attention to Fuang Man's words. His eyes were fixed on my report card. After a while, he suddenly spoke. To YY, you did well on the test. I glanced at him, and he continued. A 147 in math is probably the highest score in the grade, right? The exact result was the same as Ha and Heen's math score. Actually, I could have gotten a perfect score on that test. But the proctor suddenly appeared, and I still had a few steps to complete on the last major problem. Although it didn't affect the overall result, I was still deducted a few points. Among the more than 1,000 students in the entire grade, only Ha and Heen and I were the two who scored above 140. This math test was quite difficult, Ha and Heen said casually. It seems you submitted your paper when you were only halfway through the time, right? Yeah, something urgent came up at home. I remembered the ridiculous things my mother had done and sighed, not expecting Ha and Heen to know everything. Actually, I still wanted to keep these things quiet, but before I could show the demeanor of a modest and prudent top student, there was a sudden commotion outside, and I could even hear someone calling my name. Where's the YY? I saw her go this way just now. I've been looking for her for a while. Ha and Heen glanced at me, his eyes clearly saying, "What are you up to again?" I was sure that I hadn't offended anyone while I was hiding at home these past few days. The three of us held hands and looked outside cautiously, ready to run if things went south. If the situation was not good, we would push Ha and Heen out first and then run immediately. The first thing we saw was a bright red banner, held up high, with a line of calligraphy written on it by someone unknown. Increased by hundreds of ranks. Thank you, Teacher 2, for your guidance. Horizontally, there were also a few words, Model Teacher. Teacher 2, you are my parents. I can never repay your great kindness. Even the sun and moon are not as bright as your teachings. A male student with a crew cut suddenly ran out, hugged my thigh, and started crying. You. I resisted the urge to kick him away. Who are you? Fuang Man took out a small notebook from her school bag, flipped through it, and said, Lu Kangloy from class 12. 7, right? You registered for YY's 3 day review class before the monthly test. The student named Loop nodded eagerly. Yes, thanks to Teacher Toss focus lectures and practice tests. Last time I was ranked in the 900s, but this time I've jumped to 184th. My math has improved a lot in particular. My math teacher even called my dad to talk about my progress. I had a slight impression of him and tried to pull my leg out of his arms. Actually, you have a good foundation in science yourself, it's just that some concepts weren't clear. You just need to pay a little more attention to the problems. Student Lu continued to nod eagerly. Teacher 2, you are truly a god. Did you know? The dozens of students who participated in your review class last time all improved rapidly. They all said they want you to continue holding review classes and even want to advertise for you. am famous. The name YY suddenly became famous throughout the entire to high school. All 55 students who had participated in the review class before the monthly test became crazed mobile billboards, advertising for me everywhere. The whole school knew about my great achievement. Furthermore, because my score of 147 in math was so impressive, the teachers who had once looked down on me now had to look at me in a new light. Now, if you are still lagging behind, it's okay. As long as you work hard, there is still hope to catch up. For example, to YY of class 12. 4. You should ask yourselves why. Look at YY from the class next door, why she was able to make such great progress. I have long seen that she has great potential. What was even more terrifying was that students started writing my name in their essays. Regarding role models, I have an example like this. Classmate 2, a student who has made great progress recently. She used to be the last in the class. But through diligent listening in class and actively doing her homework, she finally achieved a leap in one subject. This has given me a lot of inspiration. Vu said she went to the teacher's office. I heard that the number of times I appeared in the students' essays was even more than Simakayan. I couldn't help but tremble. I knew very well the character of these people. They could praise me to the heavens, and they could also trample me to the depths of hell with their pens. Fortunately, my review class was now famous. If the monthly test was just a small game, then the midterm and final exams were something very serious. For 12th graders, the city's midterm and final exams followed the general regulations for question setting, grading, and strict ranking rules of major schools. Therefore, the scores of the candidates directly affected the reputation of the school, and the reputation of the school affected the quality of enrollment, parental investment, and the financial budget for the following year. Behind all of this was money. Every time before the midterm and final exams was the period when the school's atmosphere became the most gloomy. There were continuous small tests and piles of homework, and no one cared if everyone could complete such a large amount of work. Taking advantage of the lunch break, I called Man and Vu to the usual place, the rooftop cafe. Before I could speak, Man took out a notebook and eagerly began. Why? Let me tell you, there are now more than 100 students who have found me in Vu to register for your review class. Vu and I have already written down their names, but how do you want to charge them? Man and Vu are indeed my best friends. They had already noticed the main issue so quickly. Charge a fee, I'm not doing charity. When there are many people, isn't the venue rental fee money? Isn't the printing fee for materials money? Aren't the electricity, water, and air conditioning bills money? Do the brain cells I expend count as labor costs? I waved my hand. Let's see, we're classmates, so let's give a 20% discount, 200 yuan per lecture. Man and Vu nodded. That's really cheap. It's so easy to make money from the rich. Now that we're starting to charge fees, I need an accountant to keep the books. First of all, Man is out, she's not good at math. Vu is not a good choice either. She has to worry about finding a location. Logistics is not an easy job. I thought of Lu Kang Loi, the classmate who had hugged my thigh before. When I met him again in the hallway, he rushed forward to hug me again, but I always skillfully avoided him. But I remembered his math score, 132 points. Even among the top 50 high scoring candidates, this was a very good score. Vu said, his father has a company in the financial sector, so he definitely has a foundation in science. I slapped the table, that's him. Lu Kang Loi was dragged over by Man and Vu. As soon as he heard that I wanted him to be the accountant, he came over and wanted to hug my thigh again. Don't say accountant. Even if you tell me to be a buffalo or a horse, I'll agree. I quickly stepped aside. Don't talk nonsense. If others hear you, They'll think I want to do something improper with you. So the four of us became the founders of the review class. The company was registered but still didn't have a name. I didn't care much, it was just a name. Even if it was named something like New South Old North, I wouldn't have any objections. Fuang Man saw that I was silent and raised her hand. Let's call it YD class. The exam is coming up. Where is the best place to study? Come to class 12. B of no. To high school and find YY. The YD class thus began its new enrollment drive. Chuang Vu and Lu Kang Loi went together to move tables and chairs to the end of the corridor. One person was in charge of registration, and the other was in charge of collecting money. Since we stipulated that the registration period was only 3 days, there was a long line of people queuing from the registration desk to the floor below during every break. The teachers also knew about this. They saw it when they passed by the rows of classrooms both before and after class. But no one objected. After all, the miracle of the last monthly test was also brought about by the review class. This time it was also related to the school's ranking, so the teachers all unanimously remained silent. 3 days later, this time more than 500 students had registered, nearly half the grade, with the rest being students who couldn't get a spot. Some people even ran to our classroom and said they wanted to get into a review session for 500 yuan. A student next to them immediately countered with a price of 800. The scene was extremely fierce. I even wanted to hire someone to hand out tickets, specifically to be in charge of distributing numbers to the students in line. But in the end, my conscience made me give up this idea. After all, I am a measured merchant. All right, the seats are limited. We can't accept all the students. I'll compile and print a set of practice tests. 100 yuan a set. You can buy them then. Because there were too many people registered, the classroom like last time was not big enough to sit everyone. Xuang Vu had gone to the academic affairs office to apply for permission to use the large auditorium. Now she no longer needed to make up excuses like club activities. The leader of the academic affairs office saw the room request form she submitted and directly approved it, not forgetting to joke, work hard, whether we can beat no. 8 high school this time all depends on you guys. I had prepared a book of advanced knowledge and predicted questions in advance and wanted Chuang Vu to print it out. But if I alone had to continuously teach so many classes, even if I was healthy and didn't get sick, I wouldn't be able to bear it. I really wanted to pull Ha and Heen in. His problem. Solving methods and mine complemented each other, and he had a good reputation in the school, which would definitely be better than mine at deceiving people. But every time I saw his cold face, I couldn't say a word. In the end, I had to ask Fuan Man to call her tutor at home. That tutor then called some other tutors. When the group of tutors gathered, I held a meeting with them. First, I praised them, saying they were all very experienced. I was a newcomer and had to learn a lot of teaching methods from them. Then I slammed the table and changed the subject, emphasizing to them that no matter what, the 4 of us were still in charge. I compiled the book, I had researched it carefully, and we basically had to follow this direction. We were not allowed to guess the questions on our own, we just had to teach according to the instructions in the book. During the English class, I just sat in the back with Fuan Man and Chuang Vu. The main teacher was lecturing, and I was holding a book and watching intently, always ensuring the quality of the teaching. Fuan Man was not paying much attention to her studies. When she got bored, she turned her head to look and suddenly grabbed my hand. Hey, why? Look, why do those students in the back row look so strange? I looked intently for a while, mainly because I didn't remember all of my classmates in the same grade. I nodded. Yeah, they look strange. They're not the ones who registered for our course, right? That's right, this course isn't just for students of our no. To high school, is it? They seem to be from other schools. Hearing the 2 of us talking, Chuang Vu also chimed in. I know one of them is a student from one high school, the son of my mom's friend. This is freeloading. I don't accept this situation. With a flick of my butt, the three of us went to the back together. Chuanvu quickly closed the back door first. In total, we caught 7 people from other schools, all in one go. No freeloaders escaped. In the novel, there are a total of 30 high schools, including 4 key schools. They are on 2 8 in 9 high schools. And among those 4 schools, 2 and 8 high schools disliked each other the most. One side favored a freestyle, learning from foreign education systems with club activities like those in foreign countries. The other side was simple and crude, with a cramming style of education, teaching test, taking strategies. They had to study until 11:00 p.m. at night. After class, I pulled these 7 people into the hallway and asked each of them which school they were from. Unexpectedly, there were students from 1 and 8 and 9 high schools. The remaining key high schools had formed an alliance and sent representatives to get the books to share with each other. I confiscated all the notes they had taken and tapped the head of the student from 8 high school. Isn't your school strictly managed? How did you get out? The guy mumbled, anyway, now everyone outside is saying that your school is very mysterious, that you've even invited famous professors from home and abroad to teach. It's an information war, and our school leaders also want to know what you guys are doing. We determined that the 7 students from other schools only came to the English class, so we confiscated their notebooks and kicked them out. It was only then that I knew the rumors had spread everywhere. The review class before the exam was already funny enough, but the most ridiculous rumor was that we were conducting experiments on the human body. Something about us using drugs or physical therapy to transform human genes into the genes of the Saiyan race. The effect was so miraculous that just by looking at the material, one could remember all the knowledge. Liu Kang Loi helped me find the city. Wide rankings for the last midterm and final exams. It could be seen that 2 and 8 high schools were the 2 schools with the biggest difference, with their average scores being much higher than those of 1 and 9. However, the recent performance of 2 high school had been declining. A few years ago, 2 high school was always better than 8 high school, but in the 2 exams last year, 8 high school always took the first place. I sighed, the pressure was too great. On the last day before the exam, as was customary, after finishing the prediction paper, we had to give a pep talk to the students below. This was not really my forte, but I still tried my best. I looked back at the glorious history of the school and then at how we were surpassed by 8 high school. I wanted to emphasize that if the exam was taken seriously, the total score could be 20 to 30 points higher than 8 high school. My mother had been discharged from the hospital for a while now, and she had even gained 5 to 6 kilograms. In the morning, I quickly ate a fried dough stick and 2 eggs at home and then quickly put on my school bag and left the house. Fearing that my father would find a way to pull me out of the exam room again, I said loudly as I walked, this time, unless Bin Laden is resurrected or George W. Bush gets divorced and remarried and wants to invite me to the party, don't call me. As soon as I left the house and got to school, I suddenly heard someone call my name. It turned out to be Ha En Heen. These past few days, I had been focused on reviewing and preparing for the exam during class, and I hadn't talked to him for a long time. Unexpectedly, he pointed to my eyes. Your eyes are red. I reflexively rubbed my eyes. Don't rub them. He suddenly held my hand naturally. Rubbing your eyes is not good. I stood still, not daring to move. He took a bottle of eye drops from his bag. Just put 1 or 2 drops in when you are taking the exam. Soon we arrived at the exam room. I stopped and smiled. Thank you. In here? Which room are you in? 37, on the 3rd floor. I suddenly thought, the school arranges the exam rooms according to academic performance. The good students are usually placed on the upper floors. And he seemed to have read my thoughts, and the corners of his lips curved up slightly. Next time, you'll also be taking the exam in the rooms on the top floor. The midterm exam lasted for 3 days, and the last subject was chemistry. I submitted my paper half an hour early. As soon as I walked out of the exam room, I took my phone out of my bag and saw a series of missed calls on the screen, all from my father. My first reaction was that Bin Laden must have been resurrected. Or the Pentagon had a problem, or George W. Bush was getting divorced and remarrying. Why? I have something important to tell you. I scratched my head. What is it? Yeah. I want to introduce you to someone. A private car took me straight to a high-end tea house in the city center. To be honest, I had never seen such a luxurious tea house. It was decorated with a small bridge over a babbling stream, very simple yet exuding an air of elegance. Most importantly, not everyone could enter this place because it required a VIP membership fee of tens of millions per year. My father had already booked a private room. When I entered, there were 2 people already inside. One was sitting, and the other was standing. The middle aged man with a big belly who was standing saw the door open and quickly said, "Come in, son. Zio Ling has been waiting for you for a long time." The person sitting was wearing a baseball cap and a black mask, completely covering his face. That must be Zio Ling. Zio Ling gently lifted his baseball cap, revealing his eyes. We stared at each other for a moment, and he said nothing, as if waiting for me to speak. I thought to myself, do I even know him? If my dad hadn't called me, I wouldn't have come here. What am I supposed to say now? He cleared his throat twice and took off his mask. It was only then that I realized this face was a bit familiar. I tried to search my memory. It seemed that a few months ago, my rich father had given me a stack of photos, and one of them looked like this. I vaguely remembered that the photo I pulled out was of a new idol from the entertainment company Ling Si. And my father actually introduced this person to me, Im Wai Ling. You probably don't know my Chinese name. But you must know Luak 21, right? He naturally brushed the hair from his forehead, then politely pointed to the chair opposite me. I forced a smile. I don't know any Wai Ling or Liu something. Maybe it's because I've been spending too much time studying for the exam lately. I don't even have time to follow idols. Wai Ling looked to be about my age. He said he was also taking the college entrance exam this year, but he chose the art path. He had already met the professional standards of the Central Academy of Drama, but the cultural subjects were currently a big challenge for him. Looking at him in person, he was even more handsome than in the photo. It was just that his voice was a bit funny, always sounding like he was rapping. You don't even need to guess to know he's the rapper of the group Act 21. Uncle Tu has helped me a lot. Who do you like in my group? Let me get you an autograph. Wai Ling winked at me. His voice was very confident. I hesitated, not knowing if I should tell him the truth that I had never heard of the name Act 21. Suddenly, I remembered something else. Is your group that famous? Of course, what high school student doesn't know about us? What do you mean? You are looking at a heartthrob for young girls. I almost spat out my tea. He was so narcissistic. I chuckled softly. How about this? Let's make a deal. I think it would be a pity if you guys failed the cultural subjects and didn't get into the Central Academy of Drama or the Beijing Film Academy. I'll tutor you guys and guarantee you'll pass. Wai Ling's expression suddenly became wary. What do you want? If necessary, your group will become the representatives for our class, helping us with nationwide recruitment. When I got home, my parents asked curiously, "How did it go with him today?" It was okay. Maybe they'll help me make money in the future. Mr. De rubbed his hands and exclaimed, "Excellent, why we'll have no more to do with that kid Ha and Heen." My father always felt that Ha and Heen had wronged me and wanted me to give up on him completely. But when Ha and Heen was mentioned, I remembered the midterm exam. The encounter with him when the previous month's rankings were just announced was really too embarrassing for me and became a trauma. To regain my glory, I could only look forward to the rankings of this midterm exam. A few days later, in the school cafeteria, I met Fuang Man and Chuang Vu, and the three of us sat down to eat together. While eating my noodles, I asked, "When do you guys think the midterm results will be out?" I really want to see the results of our review class on the school's bulletin board. Fuang Man and Chuang Vu looked at each other. Fuang Man said, "You forgot again?" The midterm and final exam scores will be sent directly to each student via text message. They say it's because they are important exams and they need to protect privacy. But actually, after the scores are out, everyone asks each other and finds out anyway. Oh, that's so boring. Shuang Vu seemed to understand my thoughts and said with a smile, "But the ranking of all the schools in the city will be announced directly at the auditorium of the Department of Education, and it will even be broadcast live. I heard there will be a few spots for teachers and students from the key schools to attend. How can we miss such an interesting event?" Thanks to Chuang Vu's father's connections in the Department of Education, after much pleading, her father finally managed to get us 3 tickets to the auditorium. On the day the school rankings were announced, I deliberately woke up early to go to the front gate of the Department of Education. Countless media outlets had already gathered there. They surrounded the building both inside and out. All the media personnel who were allowed inside wore blue badges on their chests. They seemed to be a little prouder because they would get the information about their units earlier than anyone else. Why, we're here," Fuang Man called out loudly. Even in the crowded crowd of reporters, I was able to find her thanks to her voice. She and Chuang Vu were together. Chuang Vu pulled me closer, showed the 3 badges to the security guard, and then led us inside very familiarly. This auditorium could hold hundreds of people. The front rows were reserved for people from the Department of Education and the leaders of the schools. Our seats were in the back. Almost everyone had arrived. The large screen displayed the words, "Press conference for the announcement of the city's first midterm exam rankings of the school year." The host began to read the opening remarks according to the prepared script. The rankings were announced from the bottom up, and the Department of Education had not yet announced the ranking of any school. There were more than 30 schools. It would probably be a while before it was our school's turn. I yawned and nudged Fuang Man's arm. "Wake me up when it's our school's turn." Fuang Man was even more dazed than I was. Her eyes darted around and then she suddenly said, "Hey, don't sleep. I think I see Ha and Heen." "Honey." I was startled. "Did you guys give him a ticket too?" Chuang Wu's eyes widened. "I'm not that free." He was probably invited as a student representative. The top student of No. 2 high school a year. Round always has special privileges. My sleepiness disappeared with that. I picked up my phone and scrolled through the news. The high school rankings in the recent exam were currently at the top of the city's social news section. Some TV stations were even announcing the results of the schools in real time. In the comments section, most of the parents were discussing which school to apply to for their children next year based on the quality of education. Next, we will announce the academic rankings of the 4 key schools. The host raised her voice and read. The 3 of us looked up together. Oh, this time the gap between the champion and the runner up seems to be quite large. First was 4th place, which belonged to No. 1 high school with an average score of 574 for 12th graders. Third place was no. 9 high school with 581 points. The scores of these two schools were not significantly different, and this order had remained stable for several years. Fuangmai clenched my hand. Do you think we have a chance to beat no? 8 high school this year? Beating no? 8 high school is not everything. My goal is to widen the score gap between our two schools as much as possible. As expected, next on the screen was the name of no. 8 high school with an average score of 603. Not a few people in the audience started to murmur. After all, no. 8 high school had been in the leading position for a whole year. There were even opinions that in terms of exam preparation, the cramming teaching method of no. 8 high school was the right way. And the free method of no. 2 high school should be eliminated. But in fact, surpassing the 600 point mark was already a very commendable achievement. The average score I expected had to be about 20 points higher than no. 8 high school to create a big shock for the leader sitting in the front row. But the current situation showed that the average score of the students in my school had to reach 623, which meant an increase of more than 40 to 50 points compared to last time. The pressure suddenly weighed heavily on me. The top position belongs to no. 2 high school. I closed my eyes, not daring to look. It wasn't until Fuan Man shook my arm and asked, why, do you think the score is real? That I opened my eyes. The average score was 653, exactly 50 points higher than the previous year. I almost screamed, but the principal of no. 8 high school shouted before me, like the tragic cry of someone who had been stabbed in the heart. He slammed his hand on the table and roared, "Impossible! There must be something fishy going on." As he spoke, he pointed at the principal of my school, who was sitting next to him, his hands trembling uncontrollably like someone with Parkinson's disease. "What did you guys do behind our backs? There are so many media outlets here today, don't even think about fooling anyone." The principal of my school, a middle-aged woman, stood up slowly, pointed her index finger, and replied coldly, "Principal of no. 8 high school, don't make baseless accusations. It's all the effort of my students. If your school is not as good, you have to accept it." "Not as good as what?" The principal of no. 8 high school became so angry that he looked like he wanted to flip the table. "Don't think that no one knows you're secretly experimenting on students. We've been secretly investigating. Your student, to YY, is clearly a student with poor academic performance, yet she's giving lectures to others. What can she possibly say? It's ridiculous. Why is the score of your no? 2 high school 50 points higher than ours." Suddenly hearing my name mentioned, I was startled. Since I was sitting in the back row, my first reaction was to try to become invisible and sneakily hide behind everyone. I didn't expect the principal of no. 8 high school to be so familiar with me. He stretched out his hand towards the back and looked at me with a threatening gaze. A series of reporters with cameras in their hands simultaneously took pictures, the flashlights flashing continuously, shining directly on my seat. HMPH, afraid to come out. The principal of no. 8 high school pushed up his glasses and said contemptuously. Provoked by him, I stood up abruptly. I wonder what the esteemed principal of no. 8 high school has to say to a student from another school like me. At that moment, the flashes from the media became even more dazzling. The principal of no. 8 high school snatched the microphone from the hands of the still dazed host and raised his voice even louder. So you're the YY? I heard you were ranked over 1000th at your school. I'd really like to know what study method you used. I didn't know why he had such a big prejudice against me. Perhaps it was because of the school rankings this time. But no matter what, using words to attack a normal student like that was a bit too much. Doesn't the principal know? I smiled. Didn't you just say it yourself? You've secretly sent people to investigate. I remember that in one of our English review sessions, there were 7 students from other schools who came to listen in. If you've forgotten, I still have their notes. My words seem to have made the principal of No. 8 high school speechless, his face turning red. After a while, he snorted, "Don't you try to argue. I've never heard of a student holding a review class before. To why, if you're so good, then don't be afraid of us making things difficult for you." A teacher from No. 8 high school came down from the front row and handed me a set of papers. You know, the midterm exam is divided into 2 types, A and B. Paper A is the one you just took. Paper B. Do you dare to try it? The implication was that he suspected me of cheating. I wasn't afraid of that. I took the paper and skimmed through it. They were all essay questions. Paper B was even a bit easier than paper A. I glanced at the questions, and the answers almost appeared in front of my eyes. After all, they had secretly investigated, yet they only used this kind of paper to scare people. I coughed twice and didn't directly say the answers. Out of respect for the principal who had set the questions, I listed the steps for solving each essay question and then gave the answers. I still used the simplest method, and it only took me a little over 10 minutes to complete the entire paper. The media started to buzz with discussion, and some people even whispered, "No wonder the performance of No. 2 high school is so high this year. Isn't this a genius?" The principal of No. 8 high school was stunned for a moment, but then a strange smile appeared on his face. "You answered very well, to why, but you didn't score any points at all. Look at the solution guide at the end of the paper." It was only then that I noticed a tiny line of text in the bottom right corner of the paper that said, "Please use the standard method from the math textbook to solve the problem." As long as you can calculate the answer, isn't that good enough? Why do you have to care whether the solving method is standard or not? I was so angry I wanted to vomit blood. It wasn't because I didn't know the standard method. After all, to teach the other students, I had read the textbook many times. I was just angry that this principal deliberately used such a despicable trick, putting a tiny line of text in the corner to frame me, making me look like I had made a basic mistake. As expected, the students of No. 2 high school all like to take shortcuts. It's not good to not have a solid foundation. The principal of No. 8 high school said while stroking his chin and smiling. Actually, I could have done it again using his so-called standard method, but at that moment, I was so angry that my first reaction was to pick up the test paper and throw it at his head. The principal of No. 8 high school was still smiling. Even if there's no problem with this midterm exam, it can only be that this exam was a bit strange. Every year, the college entrance exam is graded according to certain rules. In the upcoming college entrance exam, No. 8 high school will definitely show its true strength. He clearly said these words intentionally for the media to hear. After all, the rankings were related to enrollment. If they were suddenly demoted by 50 points, it was easy to see how bad the number of applicants and investment in No. 8 high school would be next year. Thuong Man and Chuang Vu held my hand and told me to stay calm. So the media should still have faith in us. The tradition of No. 8 high school. The principal of No. 8 junior high school continued to speak. Suddenly, a voice cut him off. I disagree with the opinion that the students of No. 2 high school only like to solve problems with non-standard methods, Mr. Principal of No. 8 high school. The clear voice belonged to a male student. I turned my head and saw Ha Enyin standing up. He took a copy of paper B from the host, just like me, and quickly skimmed through it from beginning to end. He did it the same way I did. First, he explained the steps and then he read the answers. But his solutions were all methods taught in the textbook, and he even mentioned the example exercises. The amazing thing about Ha and Heen was that he could not only state the solution method, but also accurately state which page in the textbook that solution method was on. He also conveniently related it to a certain example exercise in the book that was also solved using a similar method. The principle of no. 8 High School's mouth was wide open in an O shape. The principal of our school nodded in approval. I was wondering why she seemed so calm and composed. It turned out that Ha and Heen was the pillar of support here. The media became excited again as if they had dug up a treasure. Someone with a camera rushed to the front to get a close-up of Ha and Heen. Shuan Man angrily grabbed my hand and mumbled, "Why did the sky steal your thunder?" I didn't have any special feelings. This was a rare occasion where Ha and Heen and I were on the same side. The principal of our school looked at the principal of No. 8 High School and teased, "So? Are you convinced now? We have both what you call the unorthodox way of solving problems with shortcuts and the orthodox way of studying the textbook deeply. This is how it should be in the martial arts world, a contest of skills at Mount Hua." Applause erupted from the audience, and the principal smiled and said, "Student, want you say a few words?" What a bias. When I was so angry, no one told me to say a few words. Ha and Heen took the microphone. I know there are rumors outside that our school is conducting some kind of experiment. Actually, the students of our school have improved so quickly, and we really have to thank classmate to YY and her YD class. She passed on her learning skills to everyone. I think that based on her personality, the students she wants to help in the future will definitely not be limited to our No. 2 High School. The YD class is famous. The press conference of the Department of Education was broadcast live, and I don't know if Ha and Heen did it on purpose or not. In short, that statement of his made everyone feel as if it was because of the YD class that No. 2 High School, which was originally in second place, had surpassed No. 8 High School by 50 points. Although the reality was pretty close, the next day, Monday, as soon as I got to school, Fuan Man and Chuan Vu came to find me. Chuan Man said her phone was about to run out of battery because she kept receiving calls. The midterm exam had just ended, and out of the 30 high schools in the entire city, every school had students calling to register for a spot. Chuan Vu also said that it was now necessary to expand the scale. The large auditorium of our school was not enough, and we needed to find another location. I scratched my head. These problems needed to be discussed at a meeting of our founders. However, there was another problem at the moment. The midterm exam rankings had been announced via text message. I was first and Ha and Heen was second. The difference in our total scores was not too big. He took the initiative to find me. He lowered his eyes and said, "Besides you, I can't think of anyone else who could have come in first this time." I forced a laugh. "Ha ha, it's only a 2 or 3 point difference." A student passing by heard us talking and stopped. "Hey, don't you two have a bet?" That one was really popular. Oh my god, now that I think about that bet, I still feel embarrassed. I hope Ha and Heen doesn't ask about my score so that the whole thing can be forgotten. But Ha and Heen nodded. After a moment, I hesitated and asked, "Do you still remember the content of the bet?" "Of course." I'm ready to admit defeat. Suddenly, I felt the eyes of the surrounding classmates all focused on us, with a hint of gossip. I coughed twice. "Actually, if you want to back out." Ha and Heen frowned. No, actually, I have a better idea. Just in time, I had arranged to meet Fuan Man and the others for a founders meeting in the afternoon. This time, I brought Ha and Heen to the rooftop cafe. Lu Kang Loi was also called over by Chuan Vu. Because they had worked together, they had become closer and closer these past few days. The three of them were a little stunned at first when they saw Ha and Heen. It wasn't until I explained. Didn't everyone say that the YD class only teaches unorthodox methods? I think if Ha and Heen joins, the two methods of solving problems will complement each other, and we can recommend the most suitable method to students based on their learning situation. Since Fyong Man and Chuang Vu weren't very familiar with Ha and Heen, I initially thought they would object, but I didn't expect them to all enthusiastically agree with this idea. Fyong Man even pulled me aside and asked, "The midterm results are out. What about the bet you two had before? Did Ha and Heen back out?" He didn't back out. To be precise, he even seemed to want to actively fulfill the promise. Seeing that I was silent, Fyong Man thought for a long time, thinking that Ha and Heen's sudden appearance in the extra class this time was to use his participation in the class to exchange for not fulfilling the original promise, and she immediately became angry. She went out, slammed the table, and pointed at Ha and Heen. "I'm telling you, you have to help with YY's class, and you can't go back on the bet. Do you understand?" The founders' meeting officially began. The topic this time was to expand the model of the YD class. Because there had been too many media outlets wanting to interview us recently, I decided to unify everyone's opinions first. From now on, we won't call it a class anymore, we'll call it Y Education. After a lively discussion, we agreed on a few key points. First, we must expand the scope of enrollment, not limited to to high school, nor limited to this city, but will recruit nationwide. Second, use social media and live streaming to promote. Currently, the media is very interested in us, and we must take advantage of this to develop. Third, establish a number of departments. I will serve as the general manager of Y Education. The head of the research and development department is Hua and Heen. The head of the media department is Fyong Man, the head of the business department is Chuang Vu, and the head of the finance department is Luke Hong Loi. With the initial accumulated capital and the fact that some angel investors are contacting us to invest in us, we are not short of capital at the moment. I divided the up capital among the 4 departments, stood up straight, and put my hands on my hips. None of the 5 of us said much. All of us seemed to see a bright future welcoming us. That evening, everyone went to dinner together. Fyong Man found me again to talk. She said that now that she was in charge of the media department, she definitely needed a representative. Otherwise, our company would be all alone, and anyone who looked at us would think we had no money and no reputation. She emphasized, "Everyone does it now who doesn't have a representative." I suddenly remembered someone. I picked up my phone, then opened a person's profile picture and sent you a WeChat account. Take a look. Later, I often saw Fyong Man and Weiling using work as an excuse to travel all over the country. Chuan Vu and Luke Hang Loi were no better. The group filmed a vlog of their reunion. They were talking happily on top, but below, these two were flirting with each other. For the 12th grade classes, most people would still come to high school to study. If there was an emergency and they needed to go on a business trip, Hua and Heen and I would teach everyone via video. That's right, live streaming and video teaching are also our main directions now. After all, not everyone can come to the city to study. A few days later, we launched our website and app. The number of registered students had almost reached its peak. A month later, we recruited hundreds of live teachers. 3 months later, we decided to expand our business scope. Not just limited to college entrance exam preparation. We also teach in categories such as kindergarten to elementary school review, accelerated high school entrance exam preparation, study abroad training, civil service exam preparation, and graduate school exam review. 5 months later, according to regulations, we were able to submit our application to list the company on the stock exchange. But the procedure for that was too cumbersome, so we decided to wait until after the college entrance exam and first have a big celebration party. We held it at one of my father's villas. Chuang Vu and Luke Hang Loi went together. Fyong Man and Weiling also went together, which made Hua and Heen and me feel very lonely. We sat together, quietly watching the brilliant fireworks. At that time, neither of us could have imagined that the person next to us was the other. And I also didn't think that I had found a small goal. Who knows what the future holds? It's full of endless surprises. After that important exam, Ha and Heen asked me which school I planned to choose. Although the results would only be announced that afternoon, some universities already had the information. The top 2 universities in the country kept calling our house. My father had originally thought that my high achievement this year was due to my involvement with him, so when he heard the person on the other end of the line say, "Hello, this is Tsinghua University, is this to YY's family?" his first reaction was that it was a scam call. The Tsinghua representative asked my father about his daughter's aspirations. Woken up in the middle of the night, my father shouted irritably, "My daughter has dreamed of going to Peking University since she was a child. Your Wudayaku vocational school, don't even think about it." He had just laid down for less than 5 minutes when the phone from Peking University rang again. My father thought that the exam scores must be coming out soon. These enrollment scammers were also starting to play tricks. "Hello to YY, would you like to consider studying at Peking University? My daughter already belongs to Tsinghua. Your Zhongyuankun College of Arts and Sciences still wants to compete." The next afternoon, at 4 o'clock, the college entrance exam scores were officially announced. Dozens of newspapers were already waiting outside the gate of my villa. My father was completely stunned. Although he was a successful businessman and had attended many press conferences, this was the first time he had become the center of attention because of his daughter. The results from the Department of Education showed that I had the highest score in the entire province with a natural sciences block. Mr. De asked me with a trembling voice how I felt. "It's normal. The first time is awkward, but you get used to it after doing it a lot." Han and Heen asked me which school I wanted to go to. I thought of the scene of Mr. To trying to make peace with the admissions offices of Peking University and Tsinghua University and burst out laughing. "I haven't thought about it yet. What about you?" "Whatever you decide is fine. I heard that a school plans to give you a full scholarship and even invite you to give a speech at the opening ceremony." Han Heen repeated, "It's up to you." "What's wrong? You want to follow me wherever I go." Actually, we were both in the same city. I didn't understand why he was so insistent. After completing the university admission procedures, the training department also came to me and asked if I wanted to give a speech with Han Heen. Currently, Y Education is very well known, and we are the 2 largest shareholders. The school believes that having Ha and Heen and me give a speech together on the first day of school will create an unprecedentedly hot event. But I didn't want to do that. At the beginning of September, during the school opening, Ha and Heen got sick. He told me to go to school first and carefully reminded me to maintain good relationships with my friends and not to speak ill of him. As soon as I stepped onto the university campus, several senior sisters warmly welcomed the new students and asked me about Ha and Heen. One sister helped me with my suitcase and another asked, "I heard you also graduated from No. 2 high school, right?" I thought I had met an acquaintance, so I quickly nodded. "Yes. Did you also go to that school?" "No. But this year, our school has a very famous student." I thought they were about to mention my name, so I smiled shyly. I didn't expect them to ask about Ha and Heen right after. "Do you know him?" "Sister, when I was at No. 2 high school, I was much more famous than Ha and Heen." The senior sister smiled again. "I heard he's very handsome." I snorted. "Unfortunately, his face is full of pockmarks." The other sister was stunned. "Then he must be very tall." I rubbed my fingertips. "I'm about 2 fingernails taller than him." "Really?" The senior sister seemed to not know what to say anymore. After a moment of silence, she continued, "He's the director of a large company. He must be very capable." Didn't you know? There's a rumor that the company is a family business. He's married 7 meters tall, and half of his face is disfigured. This is the classmate Ha and Heen who is about to give a speech at our school opening ceremony. Within 3 days, this rumor had spread throughout the school. I was sitting in the dormitory eating melon seeds when I received a call from a classmate. Haas, to why, you're at school, right? I jumped out of bed. You haven't been talking bad about me, have you? I was a little hesitant and replied, of course not. That's did. Remember to pick me up at the school gate. Finally, the long-awaited opening day arrived. When Ha and Heen walked onto the stage in the auditorium, there were immediate whispers from below. It seemed that most of them were from the female students. I nudged my roommate and said, if the situation changes, you just step back and let me run first. I have to admit that Ha and Heen's speech was very successful. It was just that there was a little chaos at the end. A freshman raised his hand to ask a question. Ha and Heen nodded to let the host give the microphone to that student. The female student's question was quite direct. Ha and Heen, do you know about the rumors about you that have been circulating around the school these past few days? Ha and Heen smiled and nodded. You mean the one about being married, 7 meters tall, and with a pockmarked face on one side, right? Is that what everyone is saying? At this moment, only I, the mastermind, felt my heart tremble. The girl continued, those rumors are really too much. Ha and Heen, do you want to find out who's behind it? We'll help you. Ha and Heen said again, it's not entirely untrue. The girl was surprised. Really? For example, the matter of the family business, he held the microphone with one hand and pointed directly at me with the other, right? To why? It was only then that I asked why Ha and Heen had done that in front of so many people. He smiled. His smile was so beautiful. He said, why would I forget about the bet? Why would I have to go to the same university as you? Why would I let you spread rumors about me? He said, to why? You're so smart. Why couldn't you figure it out? It turns out all my ick was used to solve math problems. He said, you're beautiful and rich. I was afraid someone else would steal you away. I have solved many exercises and taken many tests. I used to think that my biggest reward was getting a high score on the college entrance exam. But in reality, the exam is just a not-so easy challenge in life. Regardless of whether we succeed or fail, the future is still ahead of us.